So it's multiple sources.
Yep, absolutely.
Jett Lawrence, what's up, my man? What up?
Nothing much, mate. How you guys doing? How you boys doing?
Good, man. How was your golf game today?
I didn't golf today. I golfed yesterday, but it was good.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Dude.
we did a little charity thing. It was pretty fun. I won the long drive contest thing that they had. So.
Oh, nice.
And how long would that be?
Yeah.
How far would that be?
I actually don't know the exact numbers. It was just like it was on a hole, and you just move I would move to the post, move the post where your ball is. So,
nice.
How much further did
approximately, what are we talking? 300, 250?
I think close to 300.
Sick.
I got a pretty good bounce, so I might have rolled to total of 300 something, but I normally landed around like 270. So
this would be the question everybody wants to know: who hit it further, you or Hunter? And then who hit it further, you, Hunter, or Lucas, in regards to who's going to tell the truth? I guess were they all on the same hole together?
Oh, I smoke Lucas on my drives. He's got nothing, and I smoke my brother Hunter. He hits like 150 with a driver. Terrible.
What? 150? That's like a pitching wedge. Come on, man.
Yeah, no, he sucks bad. No, he puts he plays like this fade that takes all his distance off, and he doesn't swing very hard.
He's Mr. Finesse, I think. He strikes me as Mr. Finesse.
Yeah, he's more so that where I swing pretty hard. It was a long learning curve though, because when I was first starting, I was swinging out of my shoelaces.
Just swinging for the fences, right? Yeah,
exactly. Most of the times I would finish the round of 18 and all my shoelaces would be all ripped.
My brother used to do some sort of like a Happy Gilmore swing, but he could hit it. He actually went and did the real long drive competition out in Mesquite. He can hit it like 350 or so, but he comes back and goes, dude, you don't even know. These dudes are on steroids. They're hitting it like 4 something. I was out of my league.
Yeah, dude, those guys are insane. Those long drive dudes.
Yeah, they're gnarly. So how's it feel to be a national champion in the United States, Jett? Anything change?
Nope. I'm pretty sure that after that race, I got told by my manager and my mates that I still suck, and got brain down to earth pretty quickly.
So how soon before you start training for Supercross? Are you already training for Supercross?
I'm already, we haven't trained for Supercross quite yet because we're on the new bike. So we start on outdoors to try and get a base setting already because it's a brand new bike. And I think once we get our base setting, we'll just go into the Supercross.
And how do you like that new bike?
It's good. So far, so good. It's a little tricky. It's definitely a lot different to our old bikes in a good way. So it's a new learning curve for me. So I haven't really got a brand new bike and had to learn, test on and make sure I get it good. I only had my brother, or it's already been a year or so out where it's the same. So this is new to me, but so far it's so good. We got not a too bad setting, only 2 days in. So we got all of this week in California. So we'll hopefully we can find a good setting.
And where are you going to spend the off season, in Florida or California?
We'll see. I think Florida mainly, but it depends on what coast. If I'm going West Coast in the first round in Anaheim, I might come out like a good month or so earlier and just ride like the six weeks before Anaheim in California, so I get used to the heat or the hard, more West Coast style tracks with real clay dirt and that stuff. So we'll see. It could be Hunter coming here earlier, or we never know.
Now, you guys aren't doing that secret thing like Mitch Payton does, because I hate that. As a journalist that I want to talk about and preview these things, if you guys don't tell me where you're planning, east or west, I'm like, I just skipped the 250s. Any idea when you'll know?
I'm pretty sure I'll be west, but you never know what happens, man. Like you could get an injury, or who knows, maybe Hunter's feeling better and is putting down faster lap times and be like, hey, you're pretty ready. You go ahead, and I'll spend some more time trying to get up on speed. But all depends on the off season mainly.
Yeah, and I'm cool with making changes, but just, man, I wish the teams would just tell me what you're going for. And if you got to make changes, no problem. We can make changes, but that gives us something to rant about. So,
yeah, I think the main thing is that like the team don't say much, because if you're just from like another point of view, like if a team says like, yeah, you're riding west, and they're probably like, oh crap, we got to get ready faster. Maybe it rushes them and they could have a crash or break a bone or something. So who knows? It could be that, or just they like to keep you guys guessing. Maybe, who knows?
And then my other question too is, so with the outdoor national championship, you looked good. You challenged for the Supercross title. Do you have a plan to go to 450s yet, or is that just too far out?
I mean, it's definitely been talked about. I've spoken about it with my trainer, like kind of thinking like how many more years do I have in 250, and I was just saying, hey, if next year if I complete, like, yeah, I get both titles, and I've completed kind of my goals in 250, and it's like, okay, let's set a new one. And people might say I'm stupid going up early, but people also said I was stupid going early at 16, but second year I already got a championship under my belt. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just apologize. I was one of those people. I thought you should wait, but that's...
Oh, luckily there's a phone in between us. I could have...
I don't know, man. I'm a slightly larger guy. So I did see you. But last time I saw you in person, you had a broken collarbone in the elevator at San Diego after the Anaheim issue.
That's a good point. But size don't matter.
It's true. You're Australian too. Australian dudes scare me because you guys just like grow up wrestling Crocs and just doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, we're crazy bastards. So we don't think we do.
Yeah.
So that's the dangerous part of us.
Okay, Coach, you had some questions for Jett.
Well, Jett, I don't know if you're at liberty to talk about it all. In regards to that new bike, what are you at liberty to say what you're dealing with? Like what makes it so unique compared to last year's bike? Like what are you dealing with personally on the way the bike's handling for you?
Well, the most obvious ones that I can say now and not try and lose my mind trying to think of the tiny things is probably definitely the size matter. It's definitely a lot skinnier bike, and we've been not struggling, but we've been trying to find a way how to get more grip, especially when we get back, because it's a lot more skinnier bike all the way back, and it's pretty flat. Like it's not too many curves, which looks sick. With the old bike, we had the exhaust on both sides where our boots could kind of hook into when we get back, and that stuff's like that.
Sure.
We're trying to deal with, I think, we're going to put like some grip tape on the plastic or something like that. And then another thing is obviously the weight. The weight's a big difference, which is, it's a good thing. It's for us, it's a good thing. So we don't have to try and lift around a heavier bike, but then also you're going to have to get your suspension setting a lot more dialed, because the stuff we have in our old stuff is obviously set up for the weight of that bike and a weight of me, where if it's taken some pounds off, I may have put some pounds on to even it out, but it just kind of makes the bike react a little different on some bumps and that stuff. So we got those things that we're working on, and obviously a lot more tinier things the suspension wise, just kind of feeling those stuff out, and obviously the triple clamps, stuff like that. Just real tiny little things. Just kind of right now we're just kind of ticking everything off the box, because the 250 is obviously a totally different beast compared to the 450.
Sure.
So we're just ticking off every box. We're trying this. Oh, does this work? No. Okay. Cross that off the list. So does this work? Yep, that works. We'll use that. So we're like that kind of in that stage right now.
Hey, a question. How tall are you now? You're like, what, 6'1"?
I reckon I would be 5'11" or 6 foot, because I am quite a tall frame. Even this looking at, because I'm not very wide and bulky, you could say. So I probably might look it also, especially with the legs. But I would say last time I've checked, I was 5'11", and I might be 6 foot now, which is weird because no one in our family is 6 foot, I'm pretty sure. So in that generation, which is gonna be weird. It might be the mailman son, but I think I might be 6 foot now. I'm not 100% sure. Who knows? I need to measure myself again. Get the old measuring tape out.
Do you use a stock seat, or do you cut it?
No, I use a stock seat, because I have very compared to my brother's frame. He has a shorter legs and then a longer torso, where I'm the opposite. I have quite long legs and then a short torso. So I don't really have to cut many seats down. And same with Hunter. We're pretty like a normal size. He's 5'10" or 5'11" also. So a pretty normal frame.
Have you seen the seat that Dean Wilson uses where it's wider because he's so tall so he can grip? Have you thought of doing that with any bike?
No, because when you do that, obviously his knees are there. And I find if I did the same, my knees were there, it would put my knees out a bit more, maybe in a little weaker spot. And then the grip on the boot won't touch the frame as good. So it works for him and that's good. But for my sake, I don't think I'd run the same just because of the tiny little things like that. And because Hunter and I are very big with feeling. We like to feel what the bike's doing underneath us. And I feel like that's what makes us a very good tester and a rider. So yeah, I don't think I see myself trying it, but that's Dino's thing.
Coach?
One of the things I was curious about, Jett, you and your brother were on Whiskey Throttle, and then your dad came on at the end of the show. And I just think that was one of the coolest shows ever. I know Chris and I and Hopper have talked off the record about, I think that show gave a lot of insight to the journey that you guys have been on. We get over here and we've seen you and Hunter come in, and obviously there's a lot of, I don't want to say glamour because it's still a heavy grind. It's a lot of work.
Yep.
But we didn't know the story of you sleeping on a pool table and your dad rationing cans of tuna and getting, one baguette and trying to partition it off. And then he talked a lot about the GP races over there. And I thought it was cool because I don't think a lot of people realize I go back with Todd Waters back over in Australia and with Jace at Gypsy Tales. And those two were talking about you two from the very beginning. And I thought it was really cool. A lot of people didn't realize how successful you were on the smaller bikes. And, we as a country don't race as long a motos on the smaller bikes the way that you guys did at the GPs. When you look at that journey coming all the way through on the smaller bikes, what was your favorite track that you raced on the smaller bike, and why would that be?
On the small bike, obviously it's definitely in Europe. Like there was some amazing tracks there. So the tracks like for how many tracks you have in just France or Belgium, like you have so many just in like a 30-minute radius. And it definitely, like, to me, it smokes America with the practice tracks, because over here everything's prepped nicely. They're all man-made, all big jumps and that stuff. Where over there it's a lot more nature, like more of a natural track. Like they just kind of got in a tractor and just ripped up a little loop, and that was it. And I find it's a lot better learning a flow and that stuff. So there's a lot of tracks that I rode in Europe on an 85, but I think my favorite one was forgot the name.
No worries.
I forgot that name. But
do you think
Lommel? I really liked Lommel as a 85. Just wow, you could hear the clutch. I had to slip the clutch, especially on the 85 when in my second year, because I was a bit bigger on the 85, so the bike would be going. I was on a stock Suzuki, so I was going year. So I was like, clutch to keep the revs up and try and keep my speed going. So I would say Lommel. I had there was a lot of sucky days at Lommel in the winter, but there was a lot of fun days for sure.
Did they put a clutch in it like every single time you rode it after that?
I wasn't too bad with it. I'm not a clutch bandit like some people, but I was not. I just sped. I wasn't pulling it really, and I was just feeding it a little bit, not giving it the whole basket of berries, just a little bit.
And do you think riding those gnarly tracks over there when you were young like that kind of developed the style to where second motos here are nothing?
Yep, 100%. I've said it before in that Gypsy Tales, the amateurs over there, and no disrespect, like I'm not meaning in a disrespectful way to the American amateurs. Like I don't watch much of the amateurs, but I'm sure there's a lot of like great riders. But I'm pretty sure most of the European amateurs would beat most of the Americans, and that's just like from my opinion. I'm not being disrespectful. I haven't watched most of them, but just from being there and experiencing it, they're riding on a lot rougher and gnarlier tracks. I mean, their training thing is totally different. They're training 20-minute motos, where out in California, there's kids doing 4 little lap sprints because they got to try and get used to the 4 lap sprints to try and qualify for Loretta Lynn's and that stuff, which is not their fault. It's just the program for the amateurs,
sure.
Which I don't think is the best. And I'm glad I only had to do 1 year of it, because if I had to do another year, I think I would have flew back to Europe, because it's definitely a lot better learning curve there doing the winter and that stuff. So yeah.
Let me ask you this, because it still baffles my mind, because obviously being over here, I've not had a chance to go to Lowell. I don't know, Chris, if you've had a chance to go to any of the MXGPs or anything, but we see that on video, and it's almost inconceivable to think that an 85 could even go around that track.
It definitely was a lot easier to go around that track when I got on a 250, that's for sure. But hey, there was kids out there on 65s going around, so it's a tough track, but it is possible on an 85 and 65, and I think that's what is what makes you a better rider. And dude, it's like the funny thing is, even like this a local band that you could say like that just comes and rides on the weekend, even they I feel like are a lot more higher skilled than an American or Australian that just goes to the weekend for fun, because they're riding such tougher tracks, so they have to learn fast. So it's a funny thing, but surprisingly, yes, 65s and 85s did get around Lommel on rough days. Besides on winters, no, they didn't. Because they'd just be so deep and just to take the power out of it.
Sure.
But once we get out of winter, they could.
Who was your biggest competitor in the 85 class, and did he progress and make us anybody that we would know over here that you may have raced?
Yeah. Probably the main one would be Cater Wolf, who's on Rockstar Cabana. I raced him a lot. First year and second year, I came in a lot better than everyone else. But the only person who was to catch me, start to be on my level by the end of the year, was Cater Wolf.
Nice.
So I have mad respects for him, and you can see why. You can see how he got to where he is now, being on the Rockstar Husqvarna team. So he was my main one the most of the time in 85s. In 250, I didn't really have much because I was just learning that year. I wasn't battling the same guy. So yeah, it'd probably be mainly him.
This may be an ignorant question. Did you go to the 125 at all, or did you go 85 right to the 250F?
Yeah, I skipped 125 because Suzuki just didn't have one, and I went straight to the 250. And for us at that point in time, the 250, looking into the future, was a way better path than going on 125.
Because I can't even imagine trying to keep a 125 moving on those types of courses. You know what I mean? With the elevation change. Of course, we just talked about an 85, so I guess it's all relevant. Yeah. Still two-stroker no matter what.
Not that hard to keep the speed up. The lines in Europe are a lot better formed than over here at the pro races. At the GPs, they really open their lines and kind of more so race car lines, which is a lot nicer. Where over at the nationals here, they suck because they just go from one turn, they just put it on a string straight to the next inside turn. It just creates terrible lines. So, yeah.
Point and shoot.
Yeah. And exactly. I know you're extremely busy. Go ahead. Excuse me.
More so like you said, point and shoot. It's more so like a supercross track. You go in, you point, you turn, point, and go out of those bold turns. And I think that's kind of crossed over to outdoors.
Well, Chris and I talked a lot about that. We loved watching how you would not take you, like you were just saying, sometimes you'd come in and go across 2 or 3 ruts just to get the straightest line coming out. Just very, very creative, almost wheel tapping over a lot of the things that most people would just hit, fully compress, completely unload. You would always have that rear wheel digging because you'd either wheel tap it or preload and unload, where everybody else would just completely face it, go straight up. And then, by the time they decompress, and then compress again, you're already 3 bike lengths down the lane. And that was something we talked to our viewers a lot about, just the line choice of being a little bit more open-minded to looking at lines a little bit different than the average individual. So it was cool to see.
Yeah. No, exactly. I think the main reason though I do that is just being more efficient. It's more efficient not hitting that big bump, because it's going to take more energy out of you trying to tense. You have to use that. It might not seem much at that point in time, but after lap, especially in outdoors, lap after lap, that's going to slowly build up more and more and be more fatiguing. So at the end of the day, most of my lines are just to make my life easier and not use as much energy. Some tracks you just can't do it. You literally have to take the rough line and use some energy. But I was always trying to look for that bit easier line that was still fast, but wouldn't have to use so much energy. But sometimes the roughest line is sometimes the fastest line. But yeah.
There's a technique that you use in the turns. You almost use like one of the mid-turn rollers to pop you up on the side and go around the rut. Is that something you and Hunter actually practice, or just something you started doing?
What do we do? Sorry.
Like as you're going through the turn, you know how it gets rollers in the middle?
Yeah.
Kind of like on a big berm. You kind of catch one of those rollers and let it use that as a catch to get off the main line a little bit and just get a little smoother exit.
Yeah, like you said, if there's a roller or something in a turn, like, and the line might follow all the way out and get rougher, so we'll use that we'll pop our rear out to kind of get us to turn instead of trying to stopping, go over and turn, then go. We kind of keep it in one motion, so it flows a lot nicer, and we don't have to use so much energy. You're trying to muscle the bike to turn. We kind of preload the suspension to like flick it out. We'll pop the clutch wheel maybe to get the slide, so then it'll flick, and then we'll go. But yeah, we Hunter and I get really creative with things like that because we just want to make our life easier at the end of the day in a moto. So yeah,
it's fun watching you when you're like right behind RJ Hampshire and seeing the totally different styles. Like RJ, dude, that thing could be 10-foot whoops and he just hammers them as hard as he possibly can. Where you guys just get creative. I think it's going to change the sport. I think people are going to notice what you guys are doing and they're going to have to copy it. Obviously, you're on top.
Yeah, it's funny you say it. Yeah, we have compared to my style to RJ's, these are two totally opposite.
Yes,
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Now that you've gotten this whole series under your belt, when we look at that outdoor, if you had your number one track that you loved this year, not just based on whether you won it or not, but how you enjoyed the track, which one would that be this season?
It's kind of in between three, I would say. I really liked Redbud. The second moto, I really had fun in that one. Unadilla was sick. And then and Millville, I really liked those ones. Those ones are actually really good, fun tracks to actually ride.
And who would you say has the loudest crowd of all of them that you went to this year?
Probably, you'd have to go with Redbud because it was the 4th of July. It was pretty loud. It's hard to think of it now because in the moment we don't really think about it much. We're pretty focused, dialed in. So it's hard to kind of tell.
That makes sense.
Hey, so I appreciate you coming in with us. Coach, do you got anything else? I don't want to keep you all day. I appreciate you taking the time for us.
Yeah, I have a completely left field question for Jett. If he doesn't want to answer it, that's cool. If you could be any superhero, who would you be and why? Or a superhero power, maybe.
Superpower.
Do you want to fly, invincibility, super strength?
I think I would want to control time.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's deep. Yeah, I like that.
In a sprint lap or a moto, I could quickly go back and fix it.
Yeah, nice. I like it.
Maybe the way you explained it, I thought, yes, sir, yes, sir. And I said, no, sir, no, sir. That's still my favorite quote of all time.
Exactly. I would go back and not have that first crash I did.
Yeah. Dude. Okay, one last question. And I just, like I said, you can answer or not answer this one from me. There's some gnarly stuff going on down in Australia right now with lockdowns. It looks like almost like concentration camps. I'm sure you have a lot of family and friends. Is it as bad as we're hearing? Do you know anything? And what's your thoughts on it?
I try to keep in contact with my mates and friends and family in Australia as much as I can. But from what I heard, it is pretty gnarly. Like at one stage, they'll have in quarantine, they would have the army stop by your house just to kind of check that you're actually in your house and quarantining. And they had the army on the borders, making sure you can't cross and stuff like that. Like it was funny because at one stage they said you couldn't even have a conversation with your kid because if they had it or not. So it was pretty wild. The government's kind of gone kind of dumb over there. But I was talking to my buddy Blake, and he said if you have the 2 vaccines, you're allowed to start traveling out overseas and that stuff. But you have to get the vaccine like with 1 or 2 weeks in between. Like you have to have a break of 1 or 2 weeks in between them. So because he obviously really wants to come over here, and I don't want to go over there because I'd have to quarantine and pay for my own hotel and stupid stuff like that. But it's kind of weird because Australia, everyone knows that Australians pretty relaxed and chilled, but the government's kind of seen what America did with the quarantine and kind of have doubled it and have made it stupid kind of thing. Like there'll be 1 or 2 cases of COVID and they'll lock down the whole country. Like, it's kind of stupid what they're doing right now.
Now, Jett, do they have any kind of professional exemptions? Like, let's say you were over there and with you being a professional, where you can still move around and have that mobility because of that status?
No, I don't think.
Wow.
So it's I think it really matters. I mean, the rugby team kind of had a bit of leeway with traveling in between the borders, but me, I don't think, because motocross ain't so big.
Sure.
They probably would for sure not. They would make me pay for my own hotel and quarantine and that stuff, and I wouldn't be able to. I think I would struggle to even get out of that, to be honest.
And I've heard there's been not only there's a lot of fines that are immediately put on the spot if you're caught outside. What was it, like a 5K radius from where you live?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's that. Like I said, they'll doing like the army was stopping by your house, checking like that you're still in your house quarantine. So it does surprise me.
Yeah, I'd heard it was an immediate on the spot fine. And, eventually, if you're going to fight that, now the judicial system is going to be backed up. But like you say, it's a shame that it's gotten so out of control like that. So.
Yeah, it's sad to see that happen because it's just, there's nothing you can really do about it except to complain and hopefully change the government's mind. But yeah. There
you go.
Jett, you're the man. Thank you so much for taking time on a Sunday to chat with Cooksey and the Coach. So have a good off season, and we'll be looking for you possibly on the West Coast, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, boys. I appreciate it. Anytime you boys want to talk, if you can message Lucas or me, and I'm always up for a chat.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
You got it, brother.
No problem, boys. Have a good one.
Take care.
You too, man. Later.